Yes, hello, and welcome to B&B's Football Happy Hour. I am Bobby, and as always, joined with my man, Brian.
What's going on? Glad to be back. Episode 39 after a pretty interesting week of super wild card weekend, I guess is what they label that weekend. So that's interesting. It was a good week of football.
Yeah, do anything they can to bring some extra publicity to the fact that they added a playoff team, and I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's got to have a nickname, man. So I guess super wild card weekend is what it'll be.
Whatever. Obviously, our beats, as always, provided by Dunson, and we are brought to you by Diaper Dust. Make sure you check it out, www.thediaperdust.com. If you have a kid or know someone who does that is in diapers, trust me, you need this product. You just get it, sprinkle it in the diaper. It is a deodorizing powder, and that's it. Smell is gone. So be sure to get on and check that out also on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, check it out. I know there's been a post or two, I guess, to our wall. So yeah, go over there on Facebook, add it as a like, and check it out if you know anybody, or spread the word and just get that word out there to the small businesses out there. Support another little small business trying to get up and running. So that'll be good to get that following.
Yes, sir. So we are going to discuss the results of your Super Wildcard weekend, talk a little bit about next week's matchups, and since the fantasy season is 2 weeks in the books now, we will talk top 12 positions for as many positions as we have time to get to. QBs, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. We'll discuss how everything hashed itself out over the 2020 season. And whatever we don't get to this week, I'm sure we'll finish up with next week.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I mean, we have plenty of time coming up as the games start dwindling down week by week. So we'll need some things to talk about. So, yeah, we'll try to get through them all, but never know.
And believe it or not, I got a lot on my mind and a lot to talk about and a lot to say. But first and foremost, the Colts were at the Bills this past weekend in the first game we got to watch. And Buffalo won their first playoff game, 24-27, since Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men's One Sweet Day was sitting atop the Billboard charts. And Robin Williams was trying not to get killed by a board game called Jumanji. So it has been quite some time since the Bills brought home a W in Buffalo. And I think I saw they hadn't won – or no, that's the Bills. No, the Browns. Never mind. I got a good one for the Browns. They haven't won a road playoff game since 1952. That was pretty crazy.
Quite before everybody's time, probably, that listens to the show.
Maybe. The Colts did their best to mount a comeback after falling behind in the first half, but unfortunately for them, and especially Phillip Rivers, it was so bad for this guy. Really want him to win one at some point in time. It just wasn't meant to be for them. Jonathan Taylor had another nice game, 78 yards on the ground and a touchdown, and Rivers topped 300 yards and 2 touchdowns with no picks. So he really finished out the year pretty well as far as turnovers go. Josh Allen, though, he came to play. Over 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns of his own, plus 54 yards on the ground and a rushing TD. His main man, Stephon Diggs, who was supposedly battling an injury, I don't know about that, but he went off for 128 and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, this was a good game. I mean, at one point, Buffalo was up 24-10. Looked like they were in control. Then old Phillip tried to mount his comeback, but fell a field goal short. Like you said, I'd like to see Phillip make it a little further into the playoffs one of these years, but I think his time might be up. I think he might be contemplating retirement from what we hear, but we'll see. He might you never know. He might come back, but
they could be in a bind because Jacoby Brissett's a free agent coming up as well. So the Colts, I mean, they could have Jacob Eason, the only quarterback on their roster, and that's a bit scary, I think, if you're an Indianapolis fan.
Yeah, that'll be tough. I don't know if they want to go down that road because they had a good year. I mean, you got Jonathan Taylor, like you said, another good game, and he really turned it on towards the end of the year. I mean, he had some pretty good games earlier on, but it seemed like he kind of turned it on towards the end of the year. But they fell, 3 points short here. The Bills looked pretty good. I'll give it to him. Like you said, Josh Allen came out. He's ready to – I mean, he looks like he's just one of those next good QBs, young guys. I mean, he's a stud. The one downside I had, I think I looked through his stats. I mean, he was 2 for 9 on third downs. It's probably the only negative stat I found on Josh Allen. So maybe I don't know, pick up the slack there on third down, maybe a little bit if you're playing the Chiefs or some of those other teams. But other than that, I mean, kid played lights out. You know, he can run the ball. He's quick. Scored a rushing touchdown. So, and I think Diggs, man, I mean, we talk about him week in and week out. I know we posted that poll to our site, our Facebook page, and everybody loved the Diggs move to Buffalo, and it looks like it's paying off because they're into the second round of the playoffs, and they look like they're pretty tough to beat.
Well, Indy was better in almost every single offensive category.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo only made it to the red zone twice all game, and they were
Mm-hmm.
able to pull out this win. That's impressive for Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good win. I mean, I guess they knocked like Cleveland. I mean, these teams haven't been in the playoffs in so long, haven't won playoff games in so long, so it's good to see some new blood in there. And I don't know, man, Buffalo's a tough place to play, but I mean, they got a nice little matchup this weekend, but we'll see. At least they're at home, so. And I think I looked at the forecast. There might be a little snow in the forecast there, so
Nice.
that'd be cool to see a little freezing cold snow playoff game. That'd be pretty fun. So we'll see
Well,
if that happens.
and Indianapolis, if they got Jonathan Taylor, rookie running back, and Michael Pittman, rookie receiver,
Mm-hmm.
I can argue that might be the best rookie running back wide receiver combo of any team in the league. So if
Yeah.
they can get someone under center that they trust and can play well, if Rivers decides not to come back, or if they decide they don't want Rivers back,
Mm-hmm.
they got one of the best offensive lines in the league. That could be a formidable foe in the AFC for quite a few years.
Yeah, they're
I
built
mean,
they're built to be pretty good for the next couple of years with those young guys in that offensive line. Like you said, I mean, I know they have Jacob Eason, and I know he wasn't like, I guess, one of the top QBs coming out, but I mean, he had a lot of people like Jacob Eason. I mean, I think a lot of people like that arm strength and whatnot, but I mean, you just don't know if he can play. I don't know if you want to just roll with him as your starter and hopefully he'll get you back to the playoffs next year. I don't really know if they'll want to do that, but I don't know. Hopefully Rivers comes back for at least one more year. Maybe they'll sign him to another 1-year deal and they can go at it again next year, see what happens.
who's a better rookie wide receiver running back tandem? You got James Robinson and Laviska Shenault in Jacksonville, but
Mm-mm.
I mean, outside of that, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard
I
to
got
hit on
nothing.
two guys. Yeah, I mean, there's other – yeah, I mean, for the combo wise, yeah, they would have to be the best. I mean, it's hard to hit on both guys like that, like both your top picks, especially at those skill positions. Because like we said, I mean, we talked about it in some of our draft episodes and whatnot. It's hard to hit on these receivers. I mean, you're only hitting on, say you're only hitting on 50%, you know what I mean, that are actually going to pan out. So, I mean, that's even being generous. So, yeah, I mean, Pittman looks good. And Taylor is a guy that we talked about probably on every episode that we've had. So he looks pretty good.
Right.
I think, I don't know, what did he end up with? I mean, I forget what they were talking about during the game. He ended up with like 1,500 total yards or something like that and double-digit touchdowns, I think, right? So,
Well, he's a top 12 running back, so we'll talk about that later. We get
oh,
we
yeah,
can
yeah, for
go
sure.
there
I
too.
mean, yeah, I mean, he was a stud, and he picked it up. I mean, at the end of the year, I mean, he had some weeks where, Nyheim Hines was taking all the points and all the touchdowns and all the yards, but I don't know, the last half of that season, I mean, he really turned it on. So it's good for him, man. I think he's going to be good as long as they can, I guess, use him right. I mean, they used him up at Wisconsin, but
They will.
yeah,
I mean,
this
they
year,
might have been worried about the rookie wall, whatever, but listen, he ended up being exactly who we thought he was going to be. It took longer than we hoped it would have, but he's set the role now.
oh yeah, he's good to go. I think next year he'll probably be. I mean, he got picked pretty early this year. I mean, going in the fantasy drafts, but I mean, he'll be even higher next year.
Oh
So
yeah, I mean, we're talking
sure,
first, second round for Taylor.
for sure, yeah, yeah.
All right. So Rams Seahawks. The Rams were the first road team to win this weekend as they upset the Seahawks in Seattle, 30-20. What a shocking win, at least for
Mm-hmm.
me, especially since they had to start John Wolford again. But he got hurt on like the fifth play, something like that of the game, and Jared Goff came in, which was confusing because if he had him, why not just start him? I know he's coming back from thumb surgery, but he's ready to go. He had to come in anyway, and I don't even think Blake Bortles, the third-string quarterback, was active. So if that's the case, then you really were confident that Goff was going to be okay if he had to play. But I don't know. It's a kind of a confusing move for me. Either way, Cam Akers saved the day for the Rams because both QBs on both sides of the ball, dreadful. Jared Goff was 9 for 19 for a $155. Russell Wilson was 11 for 27. So they're both under 50% completion percentage. He only threw for 174 yards. Wilson also took 5 sacks and had a QBR of 17. And I'm not the greatest math whiz in the world, but I am fairly certain that 17 is not a good number to have for your QBR.
No.
And back to Akers, he went 131 yards and a touchdown on a workhorse type load of 28 carries. Speaking of young guys ready for a big workload next year and to be drafted much, much higher in fantasy drafts, Akers is you're looking at a second round pick for him possibly as well. There were only 23 completions total in this game. DK Metcalf had 5 catches for 96 and 2 touchdowns. And then for the Rams, Bobby Woods scored and Cooper Kupp led the receivers 4 for 78. It's pretty ugly.
Yeah, this game was not as – I guess it didn't really go as I expected, obviously. I mean, I thought the Seahawks would win this one, but Russell Wilson, man, he just didn't look that good. I mean, I know the Rams defense is good. He got sacked 6 times, but I thought he'd do a little bit more than what he did. And, man, the Seahawks, they're just super disappointing. I mean,
it's their own fault.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson, I know they just fired their offensive coordinator a couple hours ago, I think. So
Brian Schottenheimer.
Yeah, he's gone. So I guess he got the blame, I guess, for some of those offensive struggles they had. I mean, they were lighting up. I mean, Russell Wilson was a surefire MVP through the first 7, 8. I mean, the first half of the year probably. That's all everybody was talking about. You know, Russell Wilson's going to finally get an MVP vote and whatnot, and he's going to win MVP. And then I don't know, he had a couple bad weeks there, and it kind of just snowballed throughout the rest of the year. They just kind of underperformed throughout the rest of the year, and I don't know. I mean, like you said, there's not really much to talk about QB play. I mean, both QBs under 50% completion. My big take was, Cam Akers. I mean, they kind of unleashed him, with 28 carries. His back probably hurts from carrying that offense throughout the game. And like you said, he's another young guy that I know he had some injuries, and they had that whole thing in the beginning of the year where they were playing 3 different running backs and not one. I'm saying, like, they'd be a different guy every week, but
he's
like
a guy now.
Moving forward, Akers is your guy, and he looks like another good young running back's going to maybe be like that Todd Gurley like they used to have back a few years ago. So we'll see. And then, like you said, I mean, this game was just weird to me because, like you said, I mean, with Wofford going down, I mean, and then Jared Goff goes in anyway. Like, why didn't he just play? To me, it made no sense. I don't know. At first, I thought I didn't know what was going to happen because I didn't even think. Like, if Goff wasn't in there, I never thought that he would go in if he got hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It didn't cross my mind, and I was like, well, why the hell didn't he go? Why didn't he just play? I know his thumb was probably hurt. I mean, the dude just had a thumb surgery, but I mean,
he's practicing full this week, so I guess he's back. But going back on building on what you said with Russell Wilson and how the whole offense dropped off in the first 8 games, DK Metcalf had 68 catches for 788 yards and 8 touchdowns. Okay, so we're talking 140 catches for 1,600 yards and 16 touchdowns. Yeah. That is an absolutely historic season right there. But the last 8 games, 40 catches, 515 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, granted, if you just double those numbers, you're looking at 80 catches, a little over 1,000 yards, and 4 scores. Those aren't terrible numbers either, but they're not historic numbers like he was on pace to do. I mean, everyone's been talking about it. I have no idea why the Seahawks changed gears, why they slowed it down, took their foot off the pedal, but you see it all the time in the NFL. We talk about it every week. Some team gets way out ahead, and then they take their foot off the gas, and they end up losing the game. Well, here you go, Seattle. Yours is just, instead of one game, it's an entire season.
Yeah, it's a tough game to lose, too. I mean, it's another, it's a divisional playoff game, so it's always hard to lose any kind of playoff game, but that probably stings even more. And Metcalf, man, he was on the sideline yelling at Pete Carroll, yelling at Russell Wilson. I don't know, kind of hate to see that, but, I mean, I guess he was frustrated. Jalen Ramsey, I mean, he still had a pretty good game, but, I mean, I guess he was kind of frustrated thought he could do a little more, I guess, but then I guess Russ wasn't really getting the ball like he thought he should be getting it, I guess. So
there's a receiver for you.
might need to change DK to T.O. Metcalf. So I don't know. I might have to start calling him T.O. Metcalf for now until he can turn that around. But and another thing, I mean, my major point was the Goff thing, and then Aaron Donald went down with a rib injury. I know they say, he's going to play, obviously, but it's never good when you're going up against Aaron Rodgers and you have I don't know. I mean, if Aaron Donald's not 100%, that might hurt him a little bit. I know their left guard went out of the game. Cooper Kupp has a knee injury, so they got a little banged up, and I know probably all those guys will end up playing, but to not have your team at 100% with some of those guys is going to, I don't know, might hinder their performance next week, but I guess we'll find out.
It'll be a tough mountain to climb. And right before we move on, a lot of times we get lost, I think, in offensive numbers, but if you checked out the stats, Bobby Wagner had 16 tackles for the Seahawks on Saturday. That's pretty impressive. That is a lot of stops.
Yeah, he's a stud, man. He's a Super Bowl, isn't he? A Super Bowl MVP?
I don't know. I know he's an All-Pro.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he's good. I mean, he's been on their team for quite some time, and yeah, it doesn't seem like he's slowing down anytime soon with 16 tackles.
Got that right. Now, in the last game on Saturday, the Buccaneers traveled to Washington and took down the football team that plays there 31-23. Tom Brady played well, although his completion percentage left a lot to be desired. But he threw for 381 yards, 2 touchdowns, and continues to set records for being the oldest player to ever do anything with a football. Leonard Fournette, he rushed for just shy of 100 yards and a touchdown. Mike Evans must have gone to the Stephon Diggs Injury Recovery Center, because he came back from a hyperextended knee and led all receivers with 119 yards on 6 grabs. The story of the game, however, was Taylor Heineke, quarterback, stepping in for the Washington football team. And, I mean, he played against a very good Bucs defense. Threw for 306 yards and a touchdown, and he also led Washington in rushing yards with 46 and a clutch rushing score that brought Washington to within 2 late in the third quarter. I mean, is Heineke the future in Washington? Very small sample size. I mean, can he be a starter? If so, what do they do with Alex Smith? I mean, the dude, Heineke, if you look at his college stats at Old Dominion, this dude was a baller, and he crushed his competition at ODU. But then he's a backup in the XFL. He didn't even join the Redskins, he didn't even join the football team until December.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me. I don't know how he's not even. I mean, this kid played lights out. I mean, he was out there. I mean, he did everything his body could to win that game. And I mean, they fell short, but I mean, he gained a ton of fans, I'm sure. And I mean, he made the case. I mean, if anything, I mean, he should at least be your backup QB. I mean, at least have him on the sideline. Like, I mean, you see with our Eagles rolled out there. I mean, we rolled out
Nate Sudfeld.
And he couldn't complete a pass if somebody had a gun to his head. And then Tyler Heineke almost comes out here and wins a playoff game against Tom Brady. So, I mean, this guy should be at least on a roster. Like, I don't know how this dude was, as a backup in the XFL and whatnot. And I don't know, man. It's a good story. I mean, hopefully he finds. I'm sure he's going to at least be, I don't know, a backup somewhere or on the Redskins, maybe as their starter or the Washington football team. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, for the other side, I mean, Brady, decent stats, pretty good, played pretty well, especially against, scoring 31 points against that defense. Everybody talks about, Washington's defense. I thought Brady looked pretty good against them. They kind of I don't know. Antonio Brown, I think, is playing a little bit of a bigger role than I thought he would. I mean, he's kind of – I know his numbers weren't, anything that, blows you away, 2 for 49, but I don't know. That touchdown he had was pretty nice.
Listen to these stats, okay? So he goes to Old Dominion. He starts all four years.
Mm-hmm.
He finishes his career with just shy of a 70% completion percentage. Barely missed 15,000 passing yards. He's at 14,959. 132 passing touchdowns, 39 picks. So he basically had 100 more touchdowns than he had interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
He also had over 1,300 rushing yards and 22 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, he was a stud because, I mean, we had when Ray Lowry came on, he
Yeah.
was the running back at Old Dominion, so I always followed them and watched some of their games. Would be on, I don't know, CBS Sports or whatever like that. So yeah, Heineke was the QB there. So might have to reach out to Ray and see if old Taylor Heineke's got a couple minutes. Maybe he can come on and talk to us.
Oh man, that's a good call. That'd be
Because
awesome.
I know Ray, they played together, I think, for, I want to say, at least 2 years, maybe 3. So I might have to reach out to Ray, see if he can come back on and maybe get old Mr. Heineke to come on for like 10 minutes or so and talk to us about his journey to backup QB in the XFL to almost winning a playoff game for the Washington football team. That'd be pretty
Great.
cool.
All
But
right, Brian, I'm going to task you with that.
yeah, I'm gonna work on that. I kind of just put that puzzle all together, so I might be my and they lost, so he might have a couple minutes for us on a Tuesday night. I don't know. Might
You guys
not
will
be
break
too
it up
busy
a
of a
little bit.
guy. We'll see.
All right. Yeah, man, that'd be great. So our first game on Sunday had our third road team win with the Ravens taking down the Titans 20-13 in Nashville. Now, this game was basically the Lamar Jackson and the Ravens run defense show. That's all there was. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens run defense. Lamar did not have a good game throwing the ball, less than 200 yards for seemingly the 20th time this year. And he threw a pick, but he ran 16 times for 136 yards in the score. J.K. Dobbins also scored. Meanwhile, Baltimore's defense, they finally corralled Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Henry only averaged 2.2 yards a carry on 18 totes. A.J. Brown had a nice day, 6 catches, 83 and a touchdown. But for some reason, after a big first quarter, I don't even think he had a target for like the next 2 frames.
Yeah.
I have no idea why he didn't end up with more than 10 targets. If I'm calling the plays, if I'm Arthur Smith or whatever his name is, the offensive coordinator there, should know because he's getting interviewed for every head coach opening there is. But, I mean, you just got to start chucking the ball at A.J. Brown no matter what. But Tennessee's offense could not do anything outside of Brown. Ryan Tannehill didn't run the ball. His legs usually bring a different element to that offense, help him out, but that didn't do anything. They only had the Titans with a 2,000-yard rusher and a mobile quarterback. They only had 1 rushing first down the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
Not good.
Yeah, I mean, this was an interesting game. I mean, it was a rematch from last year during the playoffs, and the Titans jumped out to a 10-0 lead, and I'm sure most Ravens fans were a little bit worried about that. I mean, Lamar had that terrible pick in the beginning of the game. He kind of just threw the ball downfield, looked like a punt, got picked off, and they were down 10-0 pretty early. He played better in the second half, and obviously he ran his butt off. 16 times for 130-something yards. That one run that he had, man, that 48-yard touchdown run was pretty incredible. It's pretty awesome of a run.
That guy's got wheels.
Yeah, for sure, man. And just like you said, I don't know. I mean, obviously Baltimore's defensive scheme was just to stop Derrick Henry, and they did that. And not many teams can say that they did that this year. And, they found a way to do it, and it was the right time to figure that out. So, man, Derrick Henry, he was a little upset too. I know I said something about Metcalf, and I know at one point I was watching this game, and I guess Derrick Henry came off the field, and Mike Vrabel seemed like he followed him for like 30 yards from the hash to like the bench. He was just in Derrick Henry's ear, and he just seemed like he didn't want to hear anything that Mike Vrabel was spitting to him. So I don't know. Tough day for Mr. Henry, but.
And I see both sides of the coin for Tennessee. I mean, Derrick Henry is how you got there. And Derrick Henry has a history of blasting the Ravens on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And Derrick Henry doesn't get going to the second half. So first half, he had 10 carries for 18 yards. Mm-hmm. But, you keep giving him the rock in the third quarter because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It doesn't. But by the time you get to the fourth quarter, you got to think, all right, all bets are off. We got to start airing the ball out. We got to change up something. But it just seemed like they just kept having Derrick Henry run into the back of his offensive lineman.
Yeah.
For 4 straight quarters, 60 minutes.
Yeah, I think his longest run of the day was like 8 yards or something like that. Like that one run that it looked like he was about to break it for a touchdown, and then somebody pulled his shoestring, and then he fell down and got 8 yards. But I don't know, man. My hat's off to Lamar. I guess he won his first playoff game, so he can, settle all those critics. But
if I'm a Ravens fan, I'm excited about it. However,
the
recipe to winning championships is not having your quarterback take 16 rushing attempts.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's not really what you want to see, but I guess if there's any guy to do it, Lamar's the guy. And yeah, it was a good game. I
Yeah.
mean, I just don't like. I mean, I know this. I don't know. This is somewhat of a rivalry, I guess. I mean, I know the Ravens at the end of the game like stomping on the logo, and then Lamar just running off the field, and that was kind of to me kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know. I mean,
Right.
I'm not a Ravens fan, but I mean, look,
Be the
it
bigger
is
person.
it is what it is. But I mean, I know the Titans, I guess, did something to the Ravens logo or whatnot, and they ended up getting a penalty, I think, at the end of the game after the Tannehill pick for I don't know,
Mhm.
half the team ran out there and started kicking the logo, and then Lamar kind of just took a knee and ran into the tunnel, and then just didn't shake anybody's hand or anything. It was kind of a bad move. He probably wishes he didn't do that, but Titans have nobody to blame but themselves. I mean, I thought Vrabel kind of played a little bit. He kind of coached this game scared to me. I mean, at one point on 4th and short across midfield, I mean, he elected to punt it. Didn't go for it on 4th down, and Ravens ended up getting a field goal out of that. So, I mean, I guess when you got Derrick Henry, I don't know, on 4th and short, you got to feed him, and who knows? I don't know. I mean, but I don't know. Ravens got to win, and they got another tough matchup this week against the Bills. So see if they can win another one on the road. I guess will be a pretty decent game.
All right. In the least surprising game of the weekend, the Bears lost to the Saints 21-9, but
Mm.
the game didn't even feel that close. Chicago had almost no offense to speak of, and 6 of their 9 points came on a meaningless Jimmy Graham touchdown with just like a few seconds left. So
Yeah.
basically, it was a 21-3 game. But besides the surprising usage of Deontay Harris with his 7 catches for 83 yards, everything I think was what we expected from New Orleans. Drew Brees was good. Alvin Kamara was good. Michael Thomas was good. I mean, it's tough for the Bears to win when the Saints won the time of possession battle 39 minutes to 21.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah,
Good luck beating Drew Brees when he's got the ball for 40 minutes.
this is a weird game. I mean, this game was 7-3 into like the halfway through the third quarter, and I don't know. It's just kind of a weird game. And like you said, the Bears scored. I think that Jimmy Graham one-handed touchdown was the last play of the game. There was like 1 second
Mm-hmm.
when they snapped the ball. He caught it one hand, and then time expired. They didn't even kick an extra point.
Big deal.
So, well, it is if you bet on that game because the line was 11 and a half, and they lost by 12. So
Oh,
that extra point costs people a ton of money. So I thought that was a rule. Don't you have to kick an extra point? I mean, I thought that was the rule.
I don't know.
I mean, I didn't bet on this game, but I mean, look, I thought that was the rule.
Mm,
I don't know. I thought you had to, or just I don't know. If you don't want it to, you had to at least kneel the ball or something. But I don't know. But yeah,
that's rough. Gosh.
this game was kind of just I don't know. It just seemed like the Saints just never were really out of control of this game. You know what I mean? Like you never at one point thought the Bears are going to win.
Never. Never. Not for a
It
second.
wasn't close. And I mean, I had to turn this thing on to the Nickelodeon channel so I could see them kicking extra points through SpongeBob's head and people getting slimed in the end zone. So if not, I probably would have fell asleep because this one was it got kind of boring there for a little while. But
All in all, I think the Nickelodeon feed has gotten pretty good feedback.
mm-hmm. I
And
mean,
I don't know. I
it
don't know.
was interesting. I didn't think the commentators were that great. I mean, they were kind of being it was just kind of weird because I mean we watch football a lot, obviously, and they were like they were like explaining a lot of
Yeah.
things and whatnot to people that don't watch it as much. So that was kind of weird to hear, and they were kind of being a little like Captain Obvious about some things, but it was all good. I mean, it was interesting, I guess. That was probably the best game to do it, do it during, I guess, that game because. I don't know. This one was just kind of a stale game to me. I don't know. It was just a weird game. And you would think, I mean, I thought the score would be a lot higher than what it was. I mean, it should have been 21-3, obviously. I mean, but even then, I thought the Saints would score a few more points than that, maybe into the 30s. But it is what it is. They won a playoff game, and they didn't get any major injuries, so I guess they're moving on. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know if I'm not that sold on the Saints, man. I don't know. I think this week,
Yeah.
Tom could steal that game against the Saints this week.
Think about this. We're gonna have 2 weeks in a row where we're probably gonna see Brady against Breeze, and then one of those guys against Rodgers the following week.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't get much better if you're looking at
Gosh, that's
QB
pretty.
matchups. That doesn't happen often, and it's not going to happen that much longer. You know what I'm saying? This could be the
Yeah,
last time you would see that, but
three of the greatest to do it.
all in the NFC, yeah, trying to get to that. Rodgers is trying to win his second Super Bowl, so he's trying to cement himself as one of the best to ever do it, which I think he already probably is. But and then Drew Brees is trying to win his second, right? So and then you have,
Go out on top. If he wins, he's retiring.
oh yeah, for sure. There's no reason to come back. And then Brady obviously trying to win with a different team and win his, would it be his seventh Super Bowl? So yeah, it's some good storylines, but I don't know if I'm a Saints fan. I don't know, man. I'd be a little bit worried. I don't know. I mean, I know Chicago's defense is pretty good, but I don't know. Just kind of a weird game. Didn't really just
I hear you.
I don't know. Didn't do anything
Well,
for me.
well, finally, in a game that no one could have predicted, not even Browns fans. And I know this because I heard from the good folks of Cleveland. But the Browns crushed the Steelers 48-37. Cleveland jumped out to a 28-0 lead by the end of the first quarter. 28-point first quarter for Cleveland. Pittsburgh made mistakes, and the Mendenards capitalized all game long. The once daunting steel curtain was nowhere to be found. Baker Mayfield ended up the game with 3 touchdowns, no picks. Jarvis Landry had almost 100 yards and a score. And the running backs, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they combined for over 200 total yards and 3 trips to the end zone. Meanwhile, Big Ben threw the ball 68 times, breaking the NFL record for completions in a game with 47. That's regular season or postseason. He also had 501 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, but he also threw 4 picks. Juju had a monster game. Juju Smith-Schuster, 13 catches, 157 and a touchdown. Deontay Johnson pitched in, 11 catches for 157 yards. Chase Claypool had 2 touchdowns, but obviously none of this was enough in the shootout. 84 plays and 553 total yards of offense for Pittsburgh, and they didn't win. They also didn't have a single quarterback pressure, and I'm sure that you have heard for weeks and weeks and weeks. Every week, it's like the Pittsburgh gets a sack, and it's like they have the longest sack record in the history of the NFL. Maybe that's just a regular season thing. I don't know if the postseason counts, but if the postseason counts, then sorry, but your record is now over.
It was a crazy game. Good for Cleveland. I'm happy. I wanted the Browns to win just to see them get that.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's their first playoff win since Bill Belichick coached their team, so that was ages ago. And, man, I don't know if I've seen a team, get this. The first quarter of this game was so crazy. I mean, just from the first play of the game, Marquise Pouncey airmailing it over Big Ben's head. And I don't know. To me, Big Ben and Connor didn't even look like they tried to pick it up. And then, Cleveland scores a touchdown. Big Ben comes out, throws a pick. And I don't know, man, that first quarter was pretty nuts. I think it was the most points scored in a first quarter of any playoff game in NFL history. So good for Cleveland. They beat their rivals. And to me, from being down 28-0, and I mean, for Pittsburgh, I guess if you want to take one thing, I mean, they did come back, Big Ben, he did he did everything he could. And at one point, I mean, this game was like a 12-point game at one point in the second half. And you were like, man, 12 points isn't that much. And, they get a couple stops and, that's, you score another 2 touchdowns, you're going to win by 2 points. You know what I'm saying? So
even at 28-0, I was not confident the Browns were going to win that game.
No, definitely not. I mean, I kept watching this thing because I was like,
yeah, I watched every minute.
I mean, I was like, I wanted Cleveland to win, but then I was like, things are going too good. At some point, like Juju said, like the Browns are going to be the Browns and they might end up losing this game somehow, even though they were up 28-0. But
yep.
Baker Mayfield played pretty good, and I'll give it to him. I mean, I think that it obviously was his first playoff game, and he played pretty well. It's pretty easy to do when you can walk out onto the field and your team is up 7-0. You know what I'm saying? With all the momentum in the world. But with Chubb and Hunt and Landry, to me, Landry's been stepping it up. I mean, he's been pretty damn good over this past month, and I guess they have a super tough matchup this week. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but I know Kareem Hunt has already came out and said it's personal to play against the Chiefs. So we'll see what happens. But
Yeah, so it's personal that a team drafted you, made you their starting running
Yeah.
back, and then had to get rid of you because of some terrible thing that you did.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but I don't know why
Um,
you would give the Chiefs any kind of bulletin board material. I don't think they even need it, but
has
yeah, I don't
Jarvis
know.
has Jarvis Landry ever played in a playoff game?
I
I
don't think
bet
he, I
I
don't I don't think he has. I mean,
mean,
if
I
I
bet this was his. I'll look it up, but I bet this was his first playoff game he ever played in.
yeah, I mean, I would say it was, and I mean, he played pretty good, and he's been playing well, and I don't know, it's just and Austin Hooper. I mean, he had a pretty good game. I mean, he had 7 catches, but I don't know. Pittsburgh, to me, man, when I was watching this game, it's just hard to watch because Big Ben's, and I'm not a Steelers fan, but Big Ben's been a guy that, we've been watching for the past, I don't know, what he's been playing since 2003, 2004. So, I mean, you're looking at quite some time, and I don't know, it might be time for him to think about hanging it up, I think, because I just don't know if Big Ben's good enough to get them to another Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, his numbers were crazy, but
He also didn't have a running game. They didn't even try to run the ball.
yeah, I mean, for the past like 3 years, they haven't been able to run the ball. But I don't know. I don't know if Big Ben's. This might be what I mean.
Well, I think James Conner was pretty good.
Yeah, he played pretty
Years ago,
well.
2018, I think James Conner was pretty good.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, he was pretty good in 18.
Well, I tell you, going back on what we said with Jarvis Landry, believe
Mhm.
it or not, in 2016, the Dolphins made the playoffs and played against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So
Huh.
Landry's played in 2 playoff games, both against the Steelers. He had 11 catches
Hmm.
on 14 targets for 102 yards.
Yeah, that would have been a good daily DFS play there. Jarvis Landry's the Steelers killer in the playoffs.
There you go.
But I don't. Yeah, I don't know. And
Well, I
tough
was
game
going
for Pittsburgh, man. I don't
to,
know.
but hey, look, we talked about it for weeks I mean, months actually, that they were not a great team. Even at 11-0, it was,
Mm-mm.
I don't know, it just didn't feel like they were an 11-0 team, that they were that solid. And, they ended up, 11-5, and here we go.
I think they lost 5 out of the last 6 games. I think so. 11-0 to losing the first round of the playoffs against the Browns. So I don't know. I guess I wouldn't chalk that season up as anything got great. So
Got that right. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's a very odd season for the Steelers. I don't know how you'd feel as a fan.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't heard much on social media from any Steelers fans. I have a lot of them on my Facebook page, and they've been pretty quiet. So
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't know what they'll do with Big Ben, but I don't know. He might need to retire. He might just
we shall see.
need to hang it up.
So the divisional round coming up this week, only 4 games, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. The first one, the Rams are at the Packers in Lambeau Field at 4:35. The Sunday night game is 8:15, where the Ravens travel up to Buffalo and take on the Bills. Sunday, the first game is at 3:05. I like the odd playoff times. The game starts
Yeah.
3:05. The Browns are at Kansas City taking on the Chiefs, and then Sunday night or evening. Sunday at 6:40, the Buccaneers play at the Saints down in New Orleans.
Yeah,
Which,
man.
all right, so who's winning, Rams or Packers?
I mean, Packers are probably going to win this one. I mean,
You
with
get Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
it's going to be a good look. I'll tell you this: Jalen Ramsey versus Devontae Adams will be pretty interesting to watch. I mean, I'm interested to see that. I mean, I know Devontae Adams has been kind of unstoppable this year, so it'll be a good matchup. But I don't think that hinders what the Packers will do, especially with a few of those guys banged up, and you got Goff, and you don't know who's going to play QB, and Aaron Donald's on 100%. So I think the Packers are favored by a touchdown, and I would take Packers. I mean, especially at home.
In what I think is going to be the most interesting game to watch is the Ravens at the Bills. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
who's the favorite here? I'm assuming it's a Bills, but I mean, it can't be much more than a field goal, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, Bills are -2, so that's pretty much a pick 'em game
Yeah.
there. Usually you get usually to me it seems like you get 3 points if you're the home team. You know what I'm saying, especially in the playoffs. So -2, they're kind of Vegas wants action on both sides, and like you said, to me this is probably the most well, it might be the second most interesting matchup. I mean, I want to see the Brady Breeze matchup, but this might end up being the best game.
That's what. Yeah, correct.
And I could see the Ravens winning this one. We'll see about the weather. I don't know if that'll affect anybody. I mean, I know Baltimore, it's pretty cold there too, but if it's snowing and whatnot and Lamar can't boogie around the field like he's used to doing, I don't know if they really have a shot. But
I think if the Ravens win, it's going to be because their defense was able to make Josh Allen mistake prone, which he can be. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. I'm excited to see that one. I think that'll be a good one. We'll see with I don't know. Just I'm looking forward to seeing the little Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson action there. So it'll be fun to watch.
Browns Chiefs, who you got? Chiefs.
Chiefs are -10. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I would bet on this one. 10's a lot in the playoffs. Browns are going to get Stefanski back and whatnot. They're kind of, I don't know. To me, they're going to.
Who's your head coach?
Yeah, they're going to be coming off. To me, beating Pittsburgh and getting that first playoff win was kind of like their Super Bowl. So I don't think. I don't really see much of the Browns this weekend. I don't think they're going to beat the Chiefs. Obviously, I'm not that crazy to call that. I mean, they could cover this game somehow and lose by 8 or 9 points, but I don't know. Playing against Kansas City and against old Patty Mahomes, I don't know. I think their season might be coming to an end here on Sunday.
All right, Brady and Breeze. Who you got?
I'm gonna take the Bucs in this one. I know the Saints have won the 2 previous matchups. It's super hard to it's hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year, especially in the playoffs. So I'm gonna go Buccaneers win this one. Brady finds a way to win, and I don't know, goes up against Rodgers next week.
I'm with you. So are you taking the Ravens over the Bills?
Man, I don't know. In that one, I still think Buffalo's going to win, but man, I don't know. Yeah, it's a toss-up to me. I mean, that's like a coin flip in my mind. But
we had 4 road teams win last week. 4 out of 6 games.
So you got
road team won.
Yeah, so you got if you got the Packers are home, the Chiefs are home. I got the Buccaneers winning at the Saints. So yeah, that could be 1 road win out of 3, or out of 4. I don't know. I think it's going to be super close, but I think Buffalo will win. I think Buffalo wins by a field goal, late field goal.
All right. But we'll have to see. I'd like to – I don't know. I can't really make any bets with you on this because we picked the same teams. But maybe I'll talk to you throughout the next couple of days, and I'll flip you over to Baltimore. We'll be able to make a bet.
All right. I'll see. We'll see if that line goes up. I don't know. We'll see. I like looking at that action.
All right. Changing gears. Talking a little fantasy now. Obviously, the wild and crazy 2020 season is over.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start with quarterbacks. You ready?
All right. Yeah, run them down.
All right. We'll go on Yahoo basic scoring here. Your top 12 quarterbacks are Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Ryan Tannehill, Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Kirk Cousins, and old Mr. Faithful, Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kyler he was the leader for pretty much the whole year, and then I guess Josh Allen took over the last couple of weeks. I know Kyler had a few bad weeks, and I think that last game of the year he didn't even play or whatever. So it was pretty interesting, man. Our boy Herbert, top 10 QB this year. I mean, you gotta love that if you're a Chargers fan. And
yes,
Kirk Cousins was a surprise to me. I mean, he falls short of the top 10, but I mean, for Kirk Cousins to be into the 11th QB is kind of mind-blowing in my mind. But
and most fantasy leagues are 12 teams, or at least they should be.
Yeah, so
10-team leagues are no bueno. So, so hey, you got a QB1 there, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, him and Deshaun Watson. I mean, look, Deshaun Watson. I mean, I listened back to our preseason thing, and we were kind of hammering Deshaun Watson when they lost.
I would, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when they lost DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, obviously that was the right call to make, but I mean, good for him, man, to be out there at number 5, and that kid's a stud. And it's tough to hear this whole deal with him, wanting to leave and whatnot, and he feels disrespected. And I don't know what the Texans are thinking, just kind of ticking him off, I guess. I don't know why they wouldn't include him in some of this decisions that are being made after they told him that they were going to, have him voice his opinion, and they we'll see what happens. But
Well, Watson for me is the most impressive guy on this list simply because of his lack of weapons, and
yeah,
he's still able to produce a top 5 finish. That is very impressive to me. And as I'm sure a lot of folks heard, Watson, like you were mentioning, wanting to get out of Houston, and he even said himself, "Well, hey." Because he has a no trade clause in his contract, meaning Texans cannot trade him unless he says so. He said he would approve a trade to Miami for Tua, to send Tua over to Houston. So Brian, if you are Miami, you do that deal in a heartbeat.
mm-hmm.
If you are Houston, how do you feel about
I mean, I wouldn't do that deal if I was Houston unless they were going to give me the number 3 pick back.
it? It's Houston's anyway, right? So Miami's picking third
Yeah,
overall, but it's
yeah,
they got from Houston the Laramie Tunsil trade. So yeah, and if I'm Houston, I want more than that. I'm
yeah.
not
I mean,
settling for that. I want more than that. Give me. I mean, Miami has a lot of picks, so if you were going to give me the third overall, Tua, and you were giving me a second round pick,
yeah, I'll do that. I mean, it depends. I mean, I wouldn't want. I mean,
but if you
obviously, the Tua Deshaun flip is not in comparison. Like, there is really no
no,
comparison to that.
no way.
But I mean, if you're a GM and you're going to get the number 3 pick, and then you're going to get another second round pick out of it, so you're possibly going to get 2 starters out of it plus Tua. I mean, I guess you would make that move if he's that upset about, wanting to leave and whatnot. I mean, I guess I would do that deal, but I don't
And,
know how much I would trust Tua. I don't know. I mean, what would they do at number 3? Like,
right. So I was just going to comment. If I'm Houston and I get Tua, the first thing I'm going to do is see who I can trade him to for their first round pick. If you look at some of these playoff teams, you're not going to get probably a top half pick for Tua.
yeah,
But if I'm sitting there and I'm Houston, I just got the number 3 overall pick. I can use that on a quarterback. I got a nice second round pick from Miami as well. And then I'm looking here. We got Chicago. They could. I don't now. Granted, I don't know who likes Tua. I don't know if
yeah,
they're interested in him, but they're picking Chicago's what 20th, I think.
mm-hmm.
Washington. I think Washington's picking 19th. They could use a QB, perhaps. I mean, there are some teams that drafting or picking later on that might be willing to part with a later first round pick for Tua. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be
I mean, he
tough.
was a 6 overall pick last year, just last year.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. I don't know who put that report out there. Like, how do you?
I don't
I
know.
mean, I guess Deshaun Watson says,
But
yeah,
look, it's the NBA.
I'll accept a trade to Miami, but like, how does Tua get involved? I guess Tua just gets thrown in there because
I don't know. Personally, I would
his
hate it. It's
yeah,
the NFL into the NBA where LeBron calls his buddies and he says, "Hey, D Wade and Chris
yeah, it
Bosh,
seems
why don't
kind
you
of weird.
why don't you hop on a plane and come play with me in Miami?" And then he gets tired of that, so he goes back to Cleveland. Then he calls his boy Anthony Davis and says, "Hey, why don't you meet me in LA? We'll be a Laker together." I just don't like the players dictating all of that type of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to have a no trade clause, but to like come out and say where the only place that you'll go to, I mean, it's kind of weird, but
Some other
I
comment.
could see it happening, and then I could see the Texans getting to it and picking Devontae Smith at number 3 and matching him up with his Alabama buddy there. So maybe that could work. I don't know.
True. Yeah, true. So, with these quarterbacks, Tannehill is probably the guy I would worry about the most not making it back in the
Sure.
top 12 next year, especially if his offense coordinator, Arthur Smith, who I'm sure he's going to get a head coaching job somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So if he goes somewhere else, pay attention to that. I doubt Tannehill will have the same type of year. You mentioned Herbert in 15 games. He was a top 10 guy. Love that. And if in that one game he missed, if he even has a 9-point performance, he jumps over Ryan Tannehill, and he's the 7th overall quarterback, Herbert. So I think that speaks volumes about the season he had. And don't forget, Dak Prescott, as far as points per game go,
Yeah.
he was number 1 in points per game. It was like
Mm-hmm.
20, almost 28 points, I think, somewhere around there.
Yeah, he'll probably be back in the top 10 next year if he's 100% healthy. Like you said, I could see Tannehill not being a top 12, or maybe, I don't know, maybe Matt Ryan. I don't know. If anybody, it would be Tannehill or Matt Ryan to me, fall out of the top 12. I think
Well,
Herbert next year will probably be a top 5.
Burrow's probably going to hop up in there too.
Yeah, you got Joey Burrow. If he would have played the whole year, he probably would have been a top 10.
Yep.
And like you said, there's such a small gap there from 7 to 9. Like you said, 9 points puts Herbert at 7. And then if he has a completely crazy game and scores 30 points, I mean, he would have been the 6th
Right.
QB. I mean, that's not – I mean, I started Herbert in a few of my leagues for majority of the year, and he had a few games where he went over 30. So, I mean, that wasn't like it's out of the realm of possibility. So you're talking about a kid coming out of Oregon who not a lot of people gave a lot of credit to. But, I mean, he turned the page in the NFL, man, and he looks like – it's just going to be tough, though, like we talked about the other week. I mean, they fired Anthony Lynn, so he's going to be on his second year, with his second head coach and, new offense, and hopefully he can put together the same kind of numbers because, I mean, you don't want to ruin somebody like Justin Herbert.
Oh, no, that's why when they expressed a little interest in Jason Garrett, we were both like, oh, no, please.
Yeah, don't do that. Please don't do that. But, man, that's a desirable job, obviously, with Herbert and – I don't know, the location, LA, new stadium, maybe get some fans back in the stadium. So it's exciting. Herbert.
Oh yeah.
It's a good situation. So
there's definitely less desirable spots to go to.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, moving on. Let's go wide receivers now.
All right.
So our top 12, we're looking at and this is in a full point PPR. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Justin Jefferson, our boy, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, Allen Robinson, Adam Thielen, Mike Evans sneaking back in at 11th, and A.J. Brown rounding out the top 12. Now, some things that caught me here were Devontae Adams, first place by 30 points over Tyreek Hill, and that dude only played like 13 and a half games.
Yeah.
Think about that. Devontae Adams, 30 points ahead of the next closest guy, Tyreek Hill, and he only played like 13 and a half games.
So, yeah, I mean, he missed, 3 games, 3 and change, and that's like he scored 358 points, so you're looking at almost 26 points a game. I mean, that's pretty wild for a receiver, and he's been lights out. I don't know, man. The Justin Jefferson thing obviously hits home, and that makes me shed a tear, him and Metcalf, because they're 2 guys our Eagles could have had. Man, imagine if we had both of those guys sitting at 6 and 7. We'd be talking about the Eagles playing this week, but we are not. I don't know. This list is pretty solid. I mean,
Stephon Diggs at 3.
I was saying, I'm looking at that.
Now I can't imagine him being a first-round draft pick in fantasy drafts next year. However, second-round pick. It's going to be tough. If I'm sitting there, second half of the second round and Stephon Diggs is staring at me, it's really going to be tough for me to pass on him, especially because, if you're drafting that first few picks of that first round, you probably got yourself a running back.
Yeah.
And you want to pair him up with a nice solid receiver. Stephon Diggs, every single game, it's Josh Allen looks at Stephon Diggs. He's his first read on basically every play. I mean, the Bills are running the ball and Josh Allen's still looking at Stephon Diggs. It's wild.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Hats off to Allen Robinson too. I mean, some weak QB play out there with Foles and
good call.
Trubisky. I mean, he still is the 9th receiver with 263 points. I mean, that's pretty tough to do with his situation. I mean, imagine if he had like a Justin Herbert or something. That dude would be top 5 probably, you would imagine. And yeah, then look at the teammates right there too. 7 and 8, you got Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett kind of fell off at the end of the year, but I think Tyler Lockett scored half of his fantasy points in that one game that he had. So
was it 15 catches for 200
yards? I think that was like 45% of his fantasy season in one game, and then he kind of just sprinkled in the rest throughout the other 15 games. But
now I know
top 8.
A.J. Brown was 12th overall, but he also, just like Devontae Adams, missed some games. He was 6th in points per game. Now, A.J. Brown coming in, I wasn't real high on him because I felt like his production last year was based on huge plays, and he kept breaking free and having these long touchdowns. And I'm like, this guy's not very efficient. He can't do that again and again and again. That's very difficult to repeat. And he still had his big plays this year, but he was much more efficient. And I mean, he is. Yeah. Gosh, he's a stud. A.J. Brown, he's definitely going to be a second-round pick because He is big. He is strong. He is fast. He can run. They give him, a couple rushes a game. They set up screen passes for him and find creative ways to get him the ball. So I went from being lukewarm on A.J. Brown for where he was getting drafted this past season to I am all aboard the A.J. Brown train this year coming up.
Yeah, man, he's a stud. Him and his buddy Metcalf. I don't know how they didn't win a damn national championship at Ole Miss with both of those guys on that team. I mean, I don't know how the hell they didn't
I
make
could
any minor
throw
noise.
left-handed for Ole Miss, and and we could have been in the college football playoffs.
That's what I'm
I
saying. I
mean,
don't know what's going on with that, but that's another story, I guess. But I expanded this list to 15, and my boy Robert Woods was at number 14, and that was kind of shocking to me that he was a top 15 receiver. He's a guy that I had on a few of my teams, and I was benching him half the year. I don't know. I mean, not half the year, but definitely towards the end of the year. I mean, dude was sitting on my bench, and he ended up being the number 14 receiver in fantasy. I don't know. That kind of shocked me a little bit, but might steer.
Keenan Allen's. I'm sorry, Keenan Allen's another guy. He only played 14 games, but he's sitting there right after Robert Woods with
Yeah.
two. He actually tied Robert Woods. They both had the same amount of points, but he's at 245. If you give him, if he gets 10 points a game, he's up above Tyler Lockett in those 2 games he missed.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's saying he played 14 games. So, yeah, man, if he plays those 2 games and just scores 10, yeah, he's 8. That's pretty wild. So,
I mean, and Keenan Allen coming in, he wasn't – I mean, that dude was going in like the 4th or 5th round in some drafts.
yeah.
Everybody's sleeping on him, but not – again, boom, here we go. Keenan Allen back up to he's going to go in the top 10 wide receivers, I would think, in this coming year.
Yeah, see, that's why this list is like it's super volatile because not all these guys play the same amount of games, you know what I'm saying? So that points per game –
Correct.
You might really need to look into that and dig into that more this year because, like you said, I mean, there's so much space between, like you said, Keenan Allen at 13 to Tyler Lockett. I mean, he could have moved up 5 spots if he played 2 more games, you know what I'm saying? And
right.
He's averaging a full point more than Tyler Lockett. Yeah, so that might be something people want to look into a little bit more, I guess, those points per games because all these skill position player guys, receivers, running backs, they usually don't play every single game. So,
and you got 2 teams. This is kind of cool. 2 teams with 3 receivers in the top 25.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers with Juju, Deontay Johnson, and Chase Claypool snuck in there at 23. Wow. And then the Panthers, they roll in there with Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel at 24, and DJ Moore at 25. That's pretty impressive, especially, again, Joe Brady, that offensive coordinator going in Carolina. Carolina's they don't have a ton of talents on offense, and you got pop gun arm Teddy Bridgewater as your quarterback. That's pretty impressive to get 3 wide receivers from that squad in the top 25.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially a team that didn't win a whole lot of games this year. So I'm sure if McCaffrey played the whole season, that would have been a little bit different. But yeah, it's good for Carolina Panthers fans. I mean, that's pretty crazy. And Deontay Johnson, I mean, dude, if this guy
could catch the ball,
if he didn't have 27 drops this year, I mean, he would have been a top 5 receiver probably. I mean, shoot, this guy. Every time I watch the game, this dude has like 3 drops a game. I don't know. I mean, I'd be frustrated with him if I was a Steelers fan.
Oh my gosh, for sure. All right, you ready to move on to running backs?
Yeah, let's do them. Let's get to them.
Right. Top 12, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, 4th overall, David Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, our boy, James Robinson, biggest shocker here. Josh Jacobs, Ezekiel Elliott, also a shocker, but only because he was awful this year. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and Mike Davis ran out the top 12. Dude, first off, Alvin Kamara was in first place by 40.
Yeah, that was kind of shocking to me too, especially – go ahead.
He only beat out Dalvin Cook by 1 point per game, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're talking about points per game. And I tell you what's crazy is Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
He finished 3rd with 2,000 yards rushing. I just think that speaks to the importance of pass-catching backs in football.
Yeah, that was my first take on this. I mean, shoot, you got a guy who becomes the 8th running back to run for 2,000 yards, and he's the 3rd fantasy point scorer out of all running backs. So, yeah, that just shows that Catching the ball means a lot more in fantasy, you know what I'm saying, especially running backs. Kamara obviously gets a ton of targets, and
He didn't even have 1,000 yards rushing.
yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, Derrick Henry ran for like
Yeah.
1,100 more yards or something like that than Derrick Henry, and he scored 44 more points than him. So
Yeah, but Kamara rolls in here with 83 catches and
mhm.
almost 800 yards receiving. That's gonna help your fantasy output here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those points per game are pretty close. But yeah, I mean, to me, the biggest surprise, I mean, Montgomery being fourth,
100%.
100%. To me, that's kind of shocking. And Ezekiel Elliott, because he's a guy that I had on one of my teams, and for him to be a top 10 running back absolutely blew my mind.
He only had 200-yard games all year, and it was like 103 and 105.
Yeah, I don't know how he scored 223 points. That's kind of weird.
1,000 yards rushing. I don't know.
And hats off.
The math has to be right, but
yeah, it has to be right. I don't know, because I got mine from a different website and everything's the same. So I don't know, man. But good for Cleveland, though. I mean, getting, Hunt and Chubb 10 and 11. That's crazy that, for the two running back combo there to be almost in the top 10.
Chubb had 12 games.
Yeah, 12 games. And he's, 17.3 points a game. So he's right up there with some of those top guys like like your Montgomery and, James Robinson. That was another shocker to me. Yeah, man. James Robinson, undrafted free agent, and he's a top 7 running back in fantasy. That's nuts.
Uh-huh. I mean, no one even talked about him. It was Fournette, and then was it like Divine Zigbo or backing him up maybe or
man, that's man. I wish I remember that too in the beginning of the fantasy year. It was like Fournette, they let him go, right? They released Fournette. And then you're like, I was looking all over the internet, like, who's going to be the Jags running back? And I don't remember.
Chris Thompson? Remember Chris Thompson was a third down back.
Chris Thompson and some dude with like 35 letters in his name. And I was like, I didn't even hear anything about James Robinson. If I did, I probably would have won a lot more fantasy games. So I'd have been if they were like, oh, this kid, James Robinson, he's going to be a fantasy stud, I'd have been all over the waiver wires on that. But, man, that was tough. But good for them. I mean, look, like we said, they got Chenault, Colin Johnson, two good, young receivers. You got James Robinson, and then you're probably – I mean, obviously they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence. So, and then they could possibly be getting Urban Meyer, I guess, as a head coach. So, I guess things are getting a little more exciting in Jacksonville.
I'm excited for Jacksonville.
Yeah, good for them, man. I guess they'll be a little bit better than – obviously they'll be better next year, but we'll see how much better.
Last thing I got on this, Carolina again. Carolina, another guy in – this guy, Mike Davis, top 12, they have a system there. They got a system where Christian McCaffrey's in there. He's a top 3 back. But even without him, you throw in Mike Davis, who hasn't really been successful anywhere he's played, and boom, top 12 back.
Yep. And I'm sure, obviously, if it's going to be a guy that's not going to be on that list next year, it'll probably be him because McCaffrey should be healthy.
Right.
But, yeah, he's obviously earned playing time out there in Charlotte and Carolina. So.
And don't forget about Myles Gaskin. He's not going to be on the season-long charts, but again, you're the points per game guy. He was over 16 points per game whenever he played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
good for Miami. Myles Gaskin. They have a plethora of good running backs, and neither one of them were their 2 starters coming into the season. Jordan Howard and Matt Breida. They're both out of here. So Myles Gaskin and Salvon Ahmed, they're the guys, and they're both good.
And then you got. In the draft, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a running back or two. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at this list right here, you got Jonathan Taylor and James Robinson. So you got 2 rookies on that list. So, one of those rookies from this upcoming draft might crack that list. You don't know who that guy's going to be. So never know. Depends on what team they land on. And it'll be an
Najee Harris, man. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's a stud. I would say he's probably going to be the first running back pick. So, yeah, we'll see what team –
at the end.
Yeah, see what teams they go to. It all depends on the team and I guess kind of what that situation is. But, yeah, man.
Before we move on to tight ends, what's crazy? I'm sitting here drooling over Nick Chubb, talking about how he got just over 1,000 yards in 12 games.
Mm-hmm.
O.J. Simpson rushed for 2,000 yards in 14 games.
Yeah, man. The juice is loose.
What a
O.J. Simpson was nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, well, crazy. He still is.
Yeah, I mean – yeah, if he didn't do
that's enough. Tight ends. Tight ends. So, dude, all right. So our top 12 tight ends. Here we go. Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Logan Thomas, Robert Tunyon, TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, Mike Gesicki, Noah Fant, Rob Gronkowski, doing it again, Hayden Hurst, hate you, Dalton Schultz, and Hunter Henry rounds out the top 12. But, dude, Travis Kelce was 45 points more than Darren Waller in second place and almost 150 more points than Logan Thomas, who was a surprise and at 3. 150 points separated basically 150, first to third place. I mean, Travis Kelce is a first-round pick. I mean, if Travis Kelce goes first overall in a draft, I don't even know what I would think. This guy, he's a cheat code. He's averaging over 20 points a game at a position where you're just praying your tight end gives you double-digit points. You know, you're sitting there like, just give me 10. I'll be okay if you get me 10. If you get me 12, even better. And this dude's scoring 20 a game. What an advantage you have if Kelce's on your team.
I was just going to say, he's one of those guys, like, that could be a strategy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's always hard to pull the trigger, but, you know, if you're going to do it, Travis Kelce's the guy. And, man, if you can hit on some picks, you know, in the second and third and maybe a couple, you know, in your middle rounds there, you obviously have an advantage every week if you got Travis Kelce playing tight end, man, because he would have been the third. He would have been the fourth if you consider him a receiver. I mean, he would have been number 4 in points per game. He would have been third. So, I mean, that dude's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And to me, I mean, I don't know. I guess the shocker to me was probably, I don't know, Logan Thomas. Yeah.
He sat out last week.
Yeah, he just sat out week 17 there. So, yeah, Robert Tunyon and Logan Thomas to me are the two surprises. I mean, they're two guys nobody drafted or nobody even talked about preseason.
And I think Thomas is here to stay.
I'm not sold on Tunyon. I mean, he could be like a one-hit wonder, but
he had as many touchdowns as Kelce did. They both had 11. That's I don't know. That's not going to happen again.
I can see him scoring like 4 next year or something like that. But
right, exactly.
But Logan Thomas is that kid. That dude's he's an athletic freak. I mean, he's like 6'6", 260. I mean, he's learning how to block and whatnot. And he's gonna be right back up there next year. I can see him being a top 3 next year. And you know, old Gronk, I guess, gets in the top 10. Noah Fant was a little bit of a surprise to me. I mean, being I guess he was tied with Gronk there for 8th, and that quarterback situation is pretty volatile out there in Denver and Drew Lock and whatnot. If Noah Fant actually had a good QB, I mean, he'd be a top 5 tight end maybe. So,
and he only played 14 games as well.
Yeah, he missed a few. So, and then our boy Hayden Hurst rounding out the top 10 there.
Don't mention that. Shh.
I don't know how that happens, but
he scored 0 points like half the weeks.
Yeah, like 3 weeks I had him, he scored like 2 points. But
well, dude, so we got Dalton Schultz here at 11. But people forget he wasn't even he's the backup. Blake Jarwin was like the darling of the tight end group this year. Everyone was drafting Blake Jarwin, but he tore his ACL, I think, week 1, something like that, week 2. So Schultz, he's probably not going to be if Jarwin comes back and he's a guy. Schultz is a one-hit wonder. See you later. Never be heard from again. Top 12 tight end is just going to disappear.
Yeah, that's a tough situation too. Yeah, that's kind of like. Yeah, that's
everyone forgets. Blake Jarwin was the guy.
He was, yeah, he was. Schultz is the backup, but yeah, that was a good. He would have been a good pickup fantasy-wise. You know, I'm sure nobody really drafted him, obviously, with him being a backup. But if you're picking him up pretty early on in the season, that was a good pickup to get a top 11 tight end for somebody that you didn't even draft. And to me, I mean, this list, I think Hunter Henry should probably be a little bit higher than 12th. I mean, I think Justin Herbert obviously loves airing the ball down the field, but I think it wouldn't hurt to throw it to Hunter Henry a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? And that dude's got some skill, and, you know, he should probably be in my mind, he should be at least a top 10.
We'll see where he ends up next year. You know, I mentioned
what I'm saying,
before,
he's going to be gone, I think, right?
At the end of he's free agent. So at the end of the Patriots game, he was up there talking to Bill Belichick. That'd be an awesome fit for both the Patriots and Hunter Henry. So, I don't know, who knows? We got a long off season to talk about that.
As long as they get rid of Cam, he'll be fine.
That's right. Now, George Kittle, obviously one of the big boys in the league. He was only 19th, but again, he only played 8 games. He was 3rd in points per game scored. So, and half the time, I feel like he had C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins throwing in the ball. So I'm sure he'll bounce back and have an awesome year next year. 9 tight ends, Brian. 9 tight ends average between 10 and 12 points per game.
Yep.
9. So unless it's Kelsey, Waller, or Kittle, wait on your tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. 9 dudes average between 10 and 12 points. So you add in Kittle, Waller, and Kelsey, boom, there's 12 guys right there.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be able to you can wait on a tight end, obviously. I mean, you can wait on if you're not going to get one of those top guys, I mean, Hawkinson or Logan Thomas, I mean, you're going to get those guys pretty late. Yeah.
I doubt Thomas goes high. I mean, he'll probably be like a top 7, 8 tight end, but he's not going to get drafted as a number 3 guy for sure.
No.
Just wait.
Yeah, he averaged 11 points a game. It's pretty good for a tight end.
I mean, how about Eric Ebron? If Big Ben comes back, I can see Ebron and being a top 12 guy next year. Jonnu Smith, he's a free agent, so you have to watch to see where Jonnu Smith goes.
Gronk might retire, right? He said he might retire maybe.
Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, both of them were injured throughout the year. Goddard only playing 11 games. It seems like Baker Mayfield's finding Austin Hooper more now than he did, during the regular season. Maybe that's more of a product with OBJ being out, but he's been out for a while. I mean, there's going to be options, so just wait on tight end.
Yeah, next year I can see, out of the top 12, I can see, with Kittle and maybe Goddard and a few of those other guys, I can see them cracking the top 12. So you could see, I don't know, if you compared this list to next year's list, I could see, 6 or 7 guys being different in that top 12 almost.
Right.
I mean, obviously depending with injuries and Gronk might retire or whatnot, and it all depends on where some of these guys go that are free agents. But, yeah, this was pretty I don't know. This list could be a lot different next year, obviously, besides Kelsey, Waller, and George Kittle. But I don't know. I guess that's what'll keep us playing fantasy football every year. Yeah.
I'm ready to get some rankings out there. I'm ready to start drafting.
Yeah, man, I'm ready for the draft. Still got some games left, though. I don't know. We'll see. Get it.
That's right.
Yeah, still got to watch those games. Still got to follow those games.
All right, buddy. That's all I got. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Wraps up another pretty good episode. We'll try to work on some guests coming up here shortly. We'll have some time to fill, I guess, in the next couple weeks. We only have 4 games this week, and it'll only be less and less as time goes on. But obviously, those games get more important, so we'll have much more probably to say about those games coming up. But other than that, man, another good week. Check us out on Facebook. Our beautiful video that we always post every Wednesday on Facebook. So comment on that. Let us know who you think is going to win some of these matchups this weekend. We'll get some chatter about that.
And disagree with us. Well, I feel like we haven't had a lot of folks disagree with us lately. I want to have to defend myself.
Yeah, look, we're just going to have to start. I'm about to start just being a Stephen A and just taking all the underdogs or just taking ridiculous, like the Browns are going to beat the Chiefs or something like that, just so people will comment on the post and not just agree. But hey, man, I'm sure there's going to be people that obviously Ravens Bills is close, Bucks Saints. Yeah, these are close games, man. I'm sure we got some people that'll disagree, but other than that, check us out on any platform that you could download on your phone. We're on it. So Podbean, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon, Alexa. You can play B&B's Football Hour, Spotify, Pandora.
Yep.
Check us out. Give us a follow. That only helps. all those follows help. Maybe get our name out there a little bit more. So that'll always help. But other than that, we'll keep putting it out there, and we'll try to have a few guests on here shortly. I know during the off season we're gonna obviously have to fill a lot of time with some guests and stuff like that. So it'll be good. So yeah, anybody have any kind of anything that they want to hear us talk about, they might as well tell us about it. Any guests that you might think that we could try to get on that's reasonable. Don't try to tell us to get on like Baker Mayfield or
Dude, I want Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, I'll work on that. I think we might be able to get that. I mean, we have a connection to Taylor Heineke, so I'll message our boy Ray Lowry and say, hey, I know your buddy balled out last week. You think he mind coming on for 10 minutes and throwing us a bone? We'll see,
Yes.
man. But I'll
Yeah.
work on that
And
one.
make
But
sure, yep, make sure to check out our friends at www.thediaperdust.com. Make sure you check them out, Facebook and Instagram as well.
yep, give them a like and tell everybody about it. And other than that, we'll be back next week.
Yep. Y'all are great. Thanks
All
for
right.
listening.
Take it easy.